Morning, everyone. It's Tim Elkington here, Chief Digital Officer at the IAB. Welcome to this morning's launch of Powering Up, which is our research into the SME market, which we're very excited to share with you today. Before we get going, it would be I'd really like to say thank you to our sponsor, Facebook, who are sponsoring today's launch. So many thanks to Facebook, and thanks to Brad, who is going to be joining us in a little while. Today, obviously, really should have been Digital Britain, which is our conference that we do in Manchester every year, which is where we plan to launch our SME research. So obviously, we can't be sort of with everyone in person today, but I did want to say a special hello to anyone joining us from Manchester and the North, and we're sorry we're not with you at Digital Britain this year, but hopefully we will be back up there as soon as we possibly can be. Just having a quick look at the agenda for today. That's me. I'm just going to sort of say hello and take you through a few things at the start. And then I'm going to hand over to Elizabeth, who is our Head of Measurement and Research. She's going to take you through the results, first time that we're sharing them, launching today. And then we do have Brad from Facebook, who is going to talk about Facebook and their approach to SMEs. A big shout out to Brad. It's 4:30 a.m. where Brad is. So we've asked him to get up very early. So well done to Brad for his commitment to the SME market and for getting up quite so early. And then after that, we're going to have a look at SMEs and podcasting. And we're going to be joined by Ruth from Podfront and by Charlotte and Georgie from HelloFresh. And I think the important thing about today is that this really sort of marks the start of our work in terms of SMEs. We've done a lot of work, a lot of investigation. We want to share that stuff with you today. As always, there'll be more detail on the site. So today is a sort of 20-minute version of the presentation. On the site, you can download the full report. And the next thing we're going to do on June the 24th, we're going to have a town hall with any member that wants to get involved to help us kind of explore next steps. So there's definitely stuff we can do to help the SME market. There's definitely changes that members can make to their businesses to help them sort of tap into this exciting market. So today should really be viewed very much as the sort of start of something and a program of work we're going to continue with. We will have time for questions at the end. So if you could use the Q&A functionality throughout, then what we'll do at the end is I'll have a look at the questions and pick out as many as I can to ask in those 10 minutes we've got at the end. The only other thing to add is that we are doing sort of 3 different presentations from 3 different locations, one even in a different time zone, and we are going to switch a little bit between people's screens. So do bear with us if there's a little bit of screen sharing stuff going on, but we'll try and make it as slick as we possibly can. So just before I hand over to Elizabeth, who will take you through the results, we're going to do a quick poll just to see what your views are. So our poll is, which of the following local small businesses are you most looking forward to reopening? So I think shops start to open from Monday. So which of the following local small businesses are you most looking forward to reopening? We go all the way from bookshops, hairdressers, pubs, down to toy shops. So if you could vote now, that would be amazing. And I get, well, here we go. This says a lot about all of us. Not many votes for toy shops, not many votes for bookshops. The clear winner is pubs on 46%, followed by restaurants 30%, hairdressers 18%. So the small business we're most looking forward to opening is pubs. So thank you for taking the time to complete that poll. And I think now I'm going to hand straight over to Elizabeth, who is going to take you through the results.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you can all hear me, and thank you very much for joining us this morning for the launch of our new research, which we have called Powering Up, Helping UK SMEs Unlock the Value of Digital Advertising. For the next 20 minutes or so, I'll take you through some of the highlights from the research, but as Tim mentioned already, we've got far more information than I'm able to take you through today. And if you do go to our website, iabuk.com/poweringup, there is a full report with much more information that we can go through today. But if we just start and go back to the beginning to look at some context as to why SMEs are so important for us to understand and some of the big numbers that they represent. We started 2020 at the IAB with a key aim in our research portfolio to explore small businesses, SMEs as I will refer to them in this presentation, how they use digital advertising, and we knew a few key things. Firstly, small businesses are the lifeblood of the UK economy. 99% of private sector companies are made up by SMEs, and there are nearly 6 million of them in total. Last year, they collectively had a turnover of over £2 trillion, so it's a really big sector of the economy. They've also seen phenomenal growth and continuous growth over the last decade in a similar trajectory to digital advertising, but we had never put the two side by side before. We also know that our members have a very varied experience with SMEs. Some already have relationships with them, some do not. But we know that almost all of them would benefit greatly from understanding more about what small businesses think and do with regard to digital advertising. And we also realised that despite being such an enormous part of the UK story, there was very little out there on how they use digital advertising. So we set ourselves a fact-finding mission. We commissioned MTM, who already had excellent experience looking at small businesses from our Born Online study last year, to undertake an extensive project looking at SMEs. A nationally representative survey of small businesses in the UK, covering the major sectors, surveying SMEs of all shapes and sizes, and then some deep dive interviews to really get under the skin of their attitudes. We were all ready to go by March, and then COVID-19 hit. Now, I hardly need to remind anyone, but the effects of coronavirus on small businesses became one of the earliest and biggest narratives of the pandemic in the UK. Now, thankfully, we're only a few days away from shops being able to reopen, so hopefully next week we'll see many small businesses opening their doors again. But in March, as the IAB was launching this survey, we knew we had to capture the mood of SMEs, understand how COVID-19 was affecting their business and what impact it was having on their marketing decisions. And it drives everything we're about to show you this morning. So what we found overall is that COVID-19 has hit them hard, but they're cautiously optimistic. Here's what we found from them. Firstly, 2/3 of SMEs are concerned about their future, which, although unsurprising, is still quite a shocking statistic to be saying when there are nearly 6 million of them. Secondly, 7 in 10 believe that communicating with their customers is more important than ever, and so our roles as digital advertisers already becomes fairly poignant at this point. Thirdly, and here's where the optimism begins, 2/3 say that although the first few months were really difficult, they expect to recover in the long term. Now, this is a hugely encouraging sign and hopefully something we are going to start to see shortly. And then fourthly, and most importantly, I think for IAB members, half of SMEs already say that digital advertising is more important during a crisis. Now, this is one of the statistics that I want you to remember because it shows that half of small businesses are already looking to our industry to help them recover. And it brings to attention two important things about this research. The findings in Powering Up not only show our members where the opportunities lie for them to work more effectively with SMEs, but it reveals that actually we have a responsibility and an opportunity to help them get back on their feet. And we have a real role to play if we get this right. So just a quick note on the methodology before I go into the main findings. As I said, we partnered with MTM on this research, and we're really proud of the robust level of detail it can go into. We surveyed nearly 1,200 SMEs in this project, including 800 who use paid digital advertising. Importantly, we made sure it was fully representative of the SME market, covering the length and breadth of the UK and every size business possible. And we then followed up with 11 in-depth interviews to really get under the skin of how SMEs feel about digital advertising. And again, we focused ourselves on businesses outside of London to make sure it was really truly representative of the market. And I'm pleased to say that 7 of the 11 interviews we conducted were outside of London. So that's a little bit about the context. I'll now take you through 6 key themes from the research itself. And firstly, and positively, we found that digital advertising already plays a key role for SMEs. So as a headline figure, 60% of SMEs use paid digital advertising, which is a fantastically powerful number and shows already how many businesses there are for our members to work with. Of SME advertisers, 63% agree that paid digital is important to their business success. So not only are they a converted audience, they're also a convinced audience, which we hope you find very encouraging. And the quote on the right there sums up what many businesses are saying about this, that they get value for money from digital advertising. But not only are they using digital, they see some key benefits of doing so. Overall, the top reason that SMEs say they use paid digital is to reach new customers, and the quote below that explains why. Digital can find people that other mediums can't. Secondly, and encouragingly for the IAB, who's always talking about digital as a brand building medium, SMEs cited digital as a medium that can help raise awareness. It gets to a lot of people quickly, as the quote says. And third, SMEs talk to us about how quick, easy and flexible it is to get into, that they can adapt their advertising criteria to fit their specific needs. So if 60% already use paid digital, how big could it be? Well, I'll now briefly talk about the size of the opportunity as we see it. So there are two groups that we can work with here. First, 1 in 5 SMEs, or 22%, do not use paid digital, but we think could be encouraged to do so because they use other forms of advertising, either free digital tools or traditional media sources for their advertising. And with our help and support, they can gain much more value from their marketing if they can see and understand the benefits of digital advertising. So that's 22% opportunity area. The second opportunity area is to encourage the 60% who do use paid digital to broaden their range. They tend to stick to 1 or 2 channels across all types of advertising, but the lowest average is for paid digital at 1.3 channels on average. So increasing that average by even a small amount could see huge improvements, not only to what SMEs get out of digital, but also to extend the relationship that our members have with them. And we are extremely pleased to reveal to our members our estimate of what we think this means in terms of digital ad spend. MTM have been busily crunching the numbers, and we estimate that based on the IAB's 2019 ad spend numbers, SME account for up to 45% of digital ad spend. That's both directly or through agencies. And this equates to up to £7.2 billion. Now, this is of course a cautious estimate, but it is a powerful number nonetheless. And it shows that if the industry puts in the effort to support and engage SMEs even further, there are 6 million businesses out there that would only need to adjust slightly to boost these figures even more. So we're really pleased to be able to reveal that to you. So if we started with where the existing successes lie, I'll now talk through some of the areas of opportunity, starting with what we know about how paid social, search and display are viewed by SMEs. So paid social is the most used paid advertising channel by SMEs, which is really to be celebrated. And the real opportunities we see here are with paid search and online display, which are used by a much smaller number of businesses despite making up a large chunk of the digital advertising ecosystem overall. So first, starting with paid social, we must celebrate it. Highest paid channel used by SMEs, and the third highest channel overall, including non-paid advertising. And users of it see it having broad benefits. The top reasons being its ability to reach new customers, to raise awareness, and to target by demographic. Now, this is great, and we would encourage our members to use this to talk to SMEs about social even more and showcasing these benefits to them. But not only is social the most used, it's also the most in demand. So there is an available audience that we can help and support. And they cite 3 things in particular that they would like more support on from social. Firstly, help in setting up and running campaigns, which many SMEs see as quite a tricky thing to master when they are quite resource tight. Secondly, using social platforms to test and iterate to maximise the value they can get. And lastly, support when the platforms tweak their offerings to improve the system. Small businesses often don't have the time or the staff to learn new things very quickly, and so help when these changes come through will really help them out. So if that's where social is already succeeding, then the other channels need much better recognition for what they offer. Paid search is only used by a quarter of SME advertisers, and yet we know that it makes up 51% of digital ad spend overall. So small businesses are missing out on a channel which the rest of the industry realises is growing steadily. And part of the issue here is that only a quarter want to know more about it. So what shouts clearly here is that SMEs really are in the dark about what search can do and therefore aren't seeking it out. So we really need to go back to basics and explain the benefits of search to them. And it's an even bigger opportunity for display, where just over a fifth of SME advertisers say they have a good level of knowledge or working ability to use it. It is not well used, and it also sees low proportions of people wanting to know more. And why do we think that is? Well, these 2 quotes might go some way to explaining the barriers. The top quote, "I don't understand how to do more complicated things," highlights that SMEs think that display is complex and something that they don't have time to get to grips with. And the second quote, that there's no clean way to measure display, highlights a perception that compared to analytics tools they might be using on social and search, display doesn't have an easy measurement tool. Now, of course, we know that's not the case, and that there are lots of measurement tools out there, but it's a perception that exists. So what can we do about this? Well, there are several things that we should do. We should celebrate the successes of paid social and showcase more case studies to increase the 38% who are already using it. We need to simplify the messages about what search and display can offer. We know that complex terminology will discourage SMEs from experimenting. We need to showcase how simple it can be to measure audiences and campaigns via different digital channels, and support businesses to experiment with those new channels and promote the flexibility and ease of use of them. So stepping back a bit, we'll look now at the key barriers that SMEs told us either stop them using paid digital at all, or have stopped them from increasing their use of it. The first barrier, which is probably least surprising, is the perception that digital is too expensive. It was not only one of the top reasons why non-advertisers do not use paid digital, it was also one of the top reasons why SMEs who do use digital advertising do not spend more on it. So 32% of non-advertisers say it's too expensive for them. Now, of course, that's a perception, but the circle on the right shows the reality. Of those who do use digital advertising, 63% say they get a good return on investment. So much about this is about perception. Now, of course, something might be a real reality in this. We've heard this comment in previous research we've done with D2C companies, that a barrier to entry can be the high cost of many forms of digital advertising, particularly compared to social. So as with our Born Online study, we do think that for small businesses, there is in part a real barrier to using more digital advertising because their budgets can be so low. So lowering the entry bar or creating cheaper options could really help them here. But outside of this, we think that much of this is a perception issue. We see real opportunities, for example, to raise awareness of low-cost options that already exist. We know that several of our members have self-serve solutions that could really help SMEs overcome some of their concerns here. And beyond that, and a recurring theme in this research is to use real-life examples of other businesses that have been through the same thing to reassure SMEs that digital can be a cost-effective medium. The second common barrier is the perception that digital advertising is not relevant to their business. This was cited by 36% of businesses who do not use digital advertising. Now, again, the reality on the circle on the right there is that 90% of the UK population now accesses the internet on a weekly basis. So in reality, there are hardly any businesses for whom their audience is not available online. So what can we do to bust this myth? Well, again, we think that highlighting case studies is a really powerful tool. But secondly, highlighting the evidence that shows most audiences are online and spending lots of time there, as well as educating SMEs that you can get access to really detailed data on the exact audience that they want to target online can be really effective. And lastly, while this was not cited as a barrier itself, we know that a third of SME advertisers are either unsure or do not agree that they get a good return on investment via digital. Now, with all three of these barriers, we think that actually what this comes down to is understanding and education. If small businesses had a high level of understanding of each channel and what it could offer, the numbers who said that digital was too expensive or not relevant would probably be lower. Now, of course, these are businesses that are time poor. They don't have the time to learn what it takes most of us our whole careers to understand, but there are some simple steps we can make. We can both go back to basics and teach them about the fundamentals about what digital advertising is all about. Again, we can use case studies from similar businesses, and we think that all these steps together will really help improve perceptions of cost and relevance. Now, our penultimate theme is that size of SME really does matter here. The reality shows that there is no one SME, no SME is the same, and there are nuances in their experiences of digital advertising for many reasons, but one of the core differences is size. The ability of SMEs to use paid digital varies greatly according to the number of employees and the turnover of their business, which of course dictates how much time they can dedicate to learning about it. And so we see clear opportunities to tailor the support given and the relationships that our members can have with SMEs according to their size. In broad terms, what we have found is that the smallest businesses in the UK make up the majority, but have the lowest levels of trust, experience, and understanding of what digital advertising can offer them. Micro businesses make up 96% of all SMEs, but they're the least likely to use paid digital, and they're the least likely to ask for help in it. Their budgets are small, and so their real-world ability to use paid digital is more limited. As businesses grow in size and become small, i.e. 10 to 49 employees, they start to experiment a bit more and put in higher proportions of their marketing budget towards digital. Their use of digital advertising is quite high, but whilst they understand in principle, they need much more encouragement and convincing of the effectiveness of digital advertising. And then by the time SMEs grow to medium size, they are using paid social more than any other channel of advertising, and they spend nearly half of their marketing budget on digital. They make up a much smaller portion of the SME market in total, but their spend power is high. And so the fact that they are using a relatively small number of channels, still only 1 or 2, is where we see the real opportunity being to broaden their range of channels. So there are clear opportunities to support and develop SMEs relationships at every level. What do we mean here? Well, we think that for the micro businesses, encouraging the smallest businesses to experiment with paid digital needs to start with building knowledge of its uses, and then showing how a minimal budget can add high value to business outcomes. For small businesses, they're much more familiar with the principles, but their breadth is limited to 1 or 2, and more evidence is needed to convince small businesses to spend their modest marketing budgets on digital advertising. And for the medium-sized businesses, there's a high saturation level, but they're still looking for support, and particularly actually in display advertising. Their breadth is still pretty limited, and so there's a potential to expand and broaden the channels that they use, and also to introduce new concepts such as brand building into their marketing. And last but not least, SMEs showed us that they want support in digital advertising, but they need a trusted and friendly voice to deliver it to them. When we asked SMEs about the advice and support they'd looked for in the past, the overwhelming majority of those who had looked for some had found it helpful, 80%. That's great. It shows that support services do really work, but very few have sought out help over the last 3 years, 35%. And this indeed over-indexes to the medium-sized businesses who already have much higher levels of knowledge. So clearly help and support works with digital advertising, but we just need to drive more SMEs to seek it out. So who do they turn to for this? Well, on the left-hand side here, what we can see is that they rely on online information as their first port of call, but their next stop is to turn to friends, family, and their peers to help them with their challenges. What it shows here is that we really need to mirror that trusted friend that they're currently turning to if we're to help them overcome some of the barriers that they are facing. And they also don't want our help in a static or long article format. If we look at the right-hand side now, they're seeking something much more interactive and sociable, with online training and videos the most popular formats. So this is a real call out to our members. We know that many of you have existing relationships with SMEs that you could showcase, and small businesses in the UK are crying out for examples that they can follow. So if you can think of great examples of businesses you've worked with, we want to hear from you, because we also know that SMEs want to hear from you. And so what? If you've been distracted by kids or emails, or even better, if you've been scrolling through your favourite small business's Instagram for the last 20 minutes, then what do I want you to take from this? Well, there are a few key things. Firstly, we need to celebrate the successes. 6 in 10 UK's SMEs use paid digital advertising, and we think that this can make up to 45% of digital ad spend. 63% of those who are using it say that digital advertising is important to their business, and that the key benefits include reaching new customers, raising awareness, and how quick it is to use. And then again, bringing it back to the bigger context, half of SMEs are already saying that digital is crucial in a time of crisis, and COVID-19 has really brought this to a head, and it gives us a real opportunity to help them through this. But there are some clear opportunities to work with even better with SMEs to benefit both sides of the equation, and we see these steps as: 1, education on the range of choices available to SMEs. The benefits of each channel are not well understood, and search and display in particular are untapped resources. 2, SMEs need support tailored to their size, as each need is very different. 3, real life case studies of businesses like theirs who've been down that road and succeeded can be really powerful. 4, we need to keep things really simple. Digital advertising can be complicated, but we can also make it really simple for them to understand. And 5, we can help them do that by supporting them in the formats that they've asked for, interactive and online guides. So we've heard from SMEs now, and it's now down to the digital advertising industry to deliver. So over the next few months, as Tim has mentioned, we'll be working with our members to help small business owners effectively harness online advertising and get the most out of the money that they can invest in it. Just as digital advertising has played a central role in the growth of the SME economy, we think it's now crucial to its recovery as well, and supporting that is in everybody's interests. So we're announcing 2 things today. First of all, as Tim mentioned, we've got an IAB town hall on the 24th of June, which is going to explore ways in which our industry can work more closely with SMEs. We'll look through the research results even more on that. All IAB members are welcome, and you can sign up already if you go to our events page or by going through the Powering Up Hub as part of the IAB site. And our steering groups and advisory groups in the second point are also going to be working specifically on outputs tailored to their specialisms and where SMEs can get more value. So if you're interested in hearing more about that, please speak to my colleague Dom, or do ask me and I can put you in touch with him. So thank you very much for listening to me. As I said, there's much more on our Powering Up website. If you've got any questions about this research, if you use the Q&A tool at the bottom of your screens, and we'll answer questions at the end of this webinar.
We're definitely going to take some time to answer. If anyone else has got a question, then do please use the Q&A functionality, because we definitely have time to answer a few questions for you guys. So Elizabeth, I'm going to direct the first question towards you, and it's a question from Xavier, who asks, how do we categorize the SMEs into micro, small and medium? Is it based on revenue or is it based on employee size?
Thank you, Tim. And yes, that is a great question. And I realise we should have probably started the research by explaining how we have categorised them. So thank you for that question. To answer the question, Xavier, it's based on the last thing you say, employee size, but we are using the same statistics that Ruth showed briefly in her presentation earlier from the Department for Business. They categorise SMEs by their employee size, all the way from 0 employees, or you're the sole employee in your organisation, all the way up to 249 employees for the medium-sized businesses. And micro means 0 to 9 employees, small is 10 to 49, and then medium is up to 249 employees. So that's how they do it, and that's how we do it. We wanted to make sure that we were aligning ourselves as much as possible with the government statistics on small businesses so that we could compare with them. So that's how we categorise them. And if you go into the full report on our site, I think there's more information in the methodology about that. Thank you.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Elizabeth. So the next question is a question from Dan. Does the IAB have any case studies on how paid digital has been used by SMEs? As per the recommendations, this is one of the best ways to encourage SMEs that digital provides a return on investment. So I'll slightly take that myself, but it's a great question, Dan, and that's exactly, I suppose, the journey that we're just starting in that, like I said at the start, this is the kind of start of all of the stuff that we're going to be doing. And we really want to work with IAB members to identify those case studies, because as you really rightly say, one of the big things that SMEs want is to hear from a business like mine. Has someone else been on this journey? Can someone else offer me the advice? So that's definitely something we're going to focus on. Brad, I'm just going to sort of just try to bring you in on this question as well. I suppose Facebook obviously have a whole load of case studies because you work really successfully with a load of SMEs. So you guys, I suppose, will definitely be able to lean on you in terms of getting all of this kind of information out to more SMEs so they can increase their digital spend.
Yeah, absolutely. We are happy to talk to anybody. If there's anybody on listening today that needs or wants to talk about this further, I'm just Brad Weltman at fb.com, WELTMAN. I am happy to connect you with the right people. I mean, unquestionably, I tried to sort of highlight that with my some examples, but we are looking for the SMB stories too. I certainly am, as I sort of think about the policy side of this, but we have lots. We are happy and excited to help SMBs. It's actually a really important focus for Cheryl this year. It's a really important story. And so however I can help, I am happy to do so.
Fantastic. Thanks, Brad. We have a question from an anonymous attendee, which I'm also going to pass to you, Brad. Is it possible to order a pair of those sick IAB sneakers?
That is my favorite question. I got a little nervous when I heard anonymous, but yes, and I can get you connected with those two. Actually, it's not an SMB, but they are Converse, and you can go on and you can design them however you want. In very, very fine writing, we were referred to as the Three Amigos. It says all for one and one for all, so you can really personalize the heck out of them. And so, maybe not quite an SMB, but certainly a plug for a Converse, a good business.
Fantastic. Thanks, Brad. And actually, there's a question from Sean, which I'm going to pass over to Ruth. And Sean asks, in relation to podcasts, is there any information or data specifically relating to B2B?
Yeah, actually, it's been a very effective B2B channel. So we have a large business network that includes the likes of Freakonomics or kind of Business Wars, NBC, their entire network. We've seen the likes of QuickBooks, Xero, Matchpoint. So a wide variety from financial services who are looking to kind of converse B2B to the likes of Matchpoint, which provides the TV screens for matches in pubs, using that to kind of promote their own service. So yes, absolutely. I think for us, it's really important just to understand who your audience is. We're very lucky that our parent companies have been conducting surveys for many years now. We've had over 1 million people respond to those. And so we know, for example, that listening to Freakonomics, 5% of that audience is C-suite. We also know what percentage of the audience is at a managerial level. So we can really kind of help target behind the scenes contextually to help you find the right audience.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ruth. I think that's all the questions we have, but I'm just going to ask one more. I'd like to ask Charlotte and Georgie. So today, one of the key findings from the SME research has been about SMEs wanting advice from companies that are similar to us. You know, have you been on this journey? What lessons can you pass on? How can I do it successfully? Would you just take a second to maybe sort of pass on any of the learnings about digital advertising, whether it's podcasting or display or social or search? If you were talking to a friend in the pub and they said, look, I run a SME, I'm going to start doing some digital. What's the sort of one piece of advice that either of you guys would pass on?
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Georgie, if I speak for podcasts specifically, and then perhaps you can speak more generally about online. So I think for podcasts, I mean, Georgie actually looked after the channel before me, and so I've only been looking after it for about 6 months now. But I would say the thing that, a couple of things that I've learned or have been most integral to learning about the channel have been to kind of start off quite small and really understand those ad mechanics that you're playing with. So frequency, spot length, whether it's host read, producer read, and really find of those different data variables, which ones work for you, and start on a small selection of titles and then kind of grow incrementally, monitoring your performance as you go. And it's worked really successfully having podcasts as a performance channel to start off with, and then as we've grown now, it's kind of seeing it in that brand space.
Okay, fantastic.
Sure. And I think, yeah, sorry, Tim, more broadly from an online perspective, so at HelloFresh, we're in the fortunate position now that we kind of run every single channel you can actually think of. But if I was, as he says, maybe speaking to a friend starting out, kind of paid and search are probably two of our instrumental channels. And I think you can really quickly learn from them. You can quickly A/B test. So it's a really, really good way to then feed into other online channels that maybe aren't so easy to have that A/B test structure, kind of as with podcasts. So we do a lot of our creative testing on paid social, for example, before we'll put it out to our wider channels, so display, and then looking even further potentially to kind of our out of home. So I think in terms of quick learning, the digital space and within paid social, that is where you are going to generate as quickly as possible.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. We do have, I think probably got two open questions. Let's take those really quickly and then we should close. So there is a question from Coco to HelloFresh. When working towards increasing your audience reach through podcasts, how do you minimize ad wastage? So quite a specific question around podcasts.
Yeah, again, I'll start, and Georgie, if you have anything to add, please do. I think just having a very good knowledge of your customer base, or if you're using podcasts generally to communicate a message. I'll put my video on so you can see me. And then, so for example, as Ruth mentioned, you can target by age, you can target by gender split, and so knowing the breakdown of your customer base and that allows you to then target to prospects using the podcast channel in a kind of mirror type way. And then Georgie, do you have anything that you think would add to that question?
Not I don't think as relevant, but I think also potentially podcasts is a great medium to kind of tap more in a more granular basis into like the different sector types. So for example, we have generated learnings from our other channels that the parenting audience are a really strong audience for us. So then we can look to work through podcasts to target that audience type. So I think you are probably going to get some wastage, but I think, as Charlotte says, matching up as closely in terms of your audience, and then also matching up closely in terms of sectors that you might know work well for you as well, is another kind of data point that you can match up.
Okay, marvellous. Thank you for that, guys. And the final question, which I'll take, is from an anonymous attendee, not about sneakers, but about when is the follow-up launching. So we have a town hall on June the 24th. So all of the details are in the events section of the IAB website. So we're going to be doing a whole load of stuff. We're going to be doing some work with our groups, but the town hall, if you want to dig into this a little bit more, the town hall on the 24th would be a really fantastic place to start. So I think we're all done in terms of questions. I just want to say a few thank yous. So obviously, thank you to Podfront and to HelloFresh for speaking. It's really brilliant to get those insights. Thank you to Brad, and thank you to Facebook for sponsoring today's launch. And thank you to Elizabeth and the research team at the IAB, who I know have put a huge amount of work into doing all of the research. So there is some feedback. So in the chat, you should have a link to some feedback. So if you do get a chance to just take a few minutes to complete a short survey, that would be absolutely amazing. The full report is on our site. And I think that's it for today. So thanks very much for attending, and thanks very much again to all the speakers. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.